What is going on, YouTube people? Neo Cards and Comics here. Today, we're going to kind of put a bow on Fanatics Fest 2025. Talk about it in relationship to the National, because though they may state they do not want to directly compete with each other, I believe they are competing with each other. And we'll kind of dive into that. Talk about, is it worth it? Kind of get into, around how much does it cost to spend, or how much does it cost to attend this event. I got that question in a lot of the videos that I did. Did they improve upon the things that they said they wanted to? What do they need to work on for next year? And just a few other little free-flowing thoughts. I don't have any notes written down. I'm just doing this all off the top of my head, like I do pretty much 99.9% of my videos. So, and if you have any questions that I don't address, feel free to fire off in the comments down below, and I will try to get to them. They wanted to improve. Let's start here. Did they improve on the things that they said they were going to? One of the biggest issues last year was autographs. I did not do any autographs / photo ops, but when I walked past that area, it seemed to run way more smoothly. If someone participated in that, feel free to fire off down below. The people that I had talked to that said they did said it ran way more efficiently. Last year, they were on the main show floor. They moved them down to the basement where there is way more space, just like how New York Comic Con does it, and it seemed to work out quite well. One of the other big issues last year was the hobby area of the show floor. It was basically pushed all the way to one side of the show floor. This year, it stabbed into the center of the show like a dagger. The very tip of the spear was very narrow, and then it widened out the further to the right-hand side of the room that you went. And on either side of it was activations. Now, the dealers that were up against the wall seem to not have as magical of a time, but that is going to be a lot of shows that you go to. Not everyone has a great location. Universally, I heard way more positive experiences from dealers at this show than last year's show. Last year's show was very much a mixed bag, with some saying they did okay and others saying it sucked. This year, almost across the board, I heard that they crushed it. As a card show, just strictly as a card show, yes, there is not a lot of value boxes there. If you want to dig in value boxes, this is not the show for you. If you want vintage, this is not the show for you. There was good vintage there. There just was not a lot of it. There was one guy particularly up against the back wall, had tons of nice stuff. His prices seemed fair. I don't know vintage pricing super well, but people that were buying from him seemed like it was pretty fair prices. And then there was some vintage stuff sprinkled in, but dedicated vintage dealers, there was not a lot of. It was probably about, I think they advertised it as 250 dealers, but it was actually close to 700 tables, because a lot of dealers had multiple tables. The stuff that was there was really nice. Yes, there was some ultra high end. I saw $100,000 LeBron and Jordan cards and Kobe cards and ultra high end baseball. There was a lot of stuff in the sweet spot of 500 to like 1,500. Probably the best selection of 90s and 2000, like early 2000 stuff that I have seen outside of the National. If you wanted PMGs, essential credentials, any of that sort of stuff, any of those sorts of style of cards, it was probably there. I saw tons of that stuff. Great show, and you could tell the dealers knew, they learned from last year. Wrestling dominates this show. And the dealers picked up on that, and there was lots of great wrestling inventory at this show. A little bit of Pokemon, not a ton, but there was definitely Pokemon on the show floor. Do you need all 3 days just to go through the card show portion of this show? No. If you're doing anything else, that's where time starts getting sucked up. If you just wanted to go in, hit the card section, maybe buy a t-shirt and catch one thing really quickly and get out the door, you could probably do it in a day. The second you want to start waiting in line for autographs, photo ops, panels, podcasts, etc., go over and, do some of the activations that they had, your time starts getting sucked up very quickly. Friday, I went to one panel. I went to the Kevin Costner panel. Saturday, I went to 2 panels. They were back to back. The LeBron Shop episode and the WWE SummerSlam press conference. That in total probably took me 3 to 4 hours by itself. Each panel, the LeBron thing was almost an hour long. The WWE thing was over an hour long, and I had to wait in a little bit of a line for both. So if you start doing that stuff, your time gets sucked up very quickly. And depending on your interest level in those things is going to determine how much time you need to spend at the event, if you're just going to get in and out for a day or not. So the card show portion, just to kind of get back to that, was, I thought, really good. Everything that I interacted with, I bought 3 cards from 3 different dealers. Their sticker pricing was fair enough, where I was at least not even scared off to negotiate with them. The sticker price was relatively close to current sales. And then I was able to negotiate slightly down on most of the items that I purchased. The Spider-Gwen Jambalaya was actually the one that they wanted to move the least on. The Alexa Bliss auto was already pretty much under comps. And then the Essential Credentials, there really wasn't much in the way of comps. But if you're into 90s, early 2000s stuff, you probably would have had an amazing time. I know one of my local buddies went. He likes to hunt rare LeBron stuff from like his early years, and there was tons of that there. Tons of Kobe's, all that sort of stuff was well represented. And a nice mix of all the major sports. Let's talk about a negative. My biggest gripe with the show overall, and maybe this is just old man yelling at clouds. It was way too loud in there. It was not like this in 2024, I don't think. But this year, a lot of the big booths had legitimately full DJ setups. And when I say that, I mean like they had a DJ spinning tracks, like in the middle of the booth. And it was freaking loud. One booth would drown out the other, so you really couldn't hear what was going on. It was hard to talk to people on the show floor in certain sections. My watch, I got more. I have a newer Apple Watch, and it gives you, like, you're in a loud environment, consider wearing ear protection warnings for stuff. And I got multiple of those a day. Now, sometimes you expect it. When I'm on the WWE panel and someone's music hits and everyone loses their mind, I expect, that sort of thing. When I'm just casually walking the show floor from one place to the other and my watch is freaking out at me because it's loud as hell in there, to me, that's a problem. There was just music blasting left, right, and center. Next year, I'll be honest, I will probably put, if it's like that again, I will definitely bring, I have noise canceling Bose or Beats earbuds, the little wireless ones. I'll bring those with me and just stick them in and not even play anything on it, just to cancel out some of the sound. I already have tinnitus in my left ear very slightly. I don't need that getting any worse. But like I said, maybe that's just old man yelling at clouds. It was extremely loud in there. League activations were fine. I didn't do any of them. I walked around and watched people do some. There was a lot of them. Some of them were cool. Some of them were not cool. Your mileage is going to vary there. If you have a kid, they would probably have a ton of fun there. I don't. The exclusives. Let's talk about the exclusives. Extremely well done this year. Extremely well done this year. They were all EQL drops. You submitted online. You had to have a ticket. You had to have a legitimate ticket. Dealers were not able to access them. You had to put in a badge. You put in your badge number. It entered you. And then you found out about the day or two before whether you got them or not. You selected your time slot. And then you went and picked them up. Overall, great experience with that. There was one minor hiccup on Friday morning, or maybe it was Saturday morning. I don't remember which, with the Cactus Jack boxes. My recommendation there, you could go back and watch my video. You had a 2-hour window to pick it up. Everyone ran first thing in the morning to grab them, and it was utter chaos. It was bad. I heard that there was a pretty decent line. I left the area and went and did other things for about an hour and 20 minutes. I came back. I waited in line for 5 minutes. There's no need to stand in the line. You guaranteed have one. You just need to pick it up within your 2-hour window, and they probably give you a little leeway on that. I wasn't about to fight my way through a crowd for a product I knew I'd already purchased. Could that part be a little smoother? Sure. But I think the trick is just walk away and come back. And by the time I got back, 1, I basically had no line to pick up my box. And 2, there was no line to buy the retail blasters. I just walked right over and got, and that was a separate line. Walked right over. There was literally no line, and grabbed 2 retail blasters at the same time. The next day, I had a pickup scheduled in the morning and a second pickup scheduled in the afternoon. They just let me pick them both up in the morning. I said, can I grab my F1 box while I'm here? And they're like, oh, yep, we see the order for it right here. No problem, done. And then I didn't have to go back later in the day. And if you hit the exclusives, even if you didn't want them, you basically could have paid for a decent chunk of your trip with them. The Cactus Jack box went for like $575 after taxes and fees. People were buying them for $1,100 to $1,200 cash on the show floor. The hobby boxes went for $300-ish. Those were going for, I think, $5-ish hundred. So you could have made a couple $100 there. The F1 box, you could have made $100 to $200 on that. And then I don't know if the blasters were flippable on the show floor or not. Maybe they were. I don't know. I should note, I did buy a 3-day pass for this show. I was provided a media badge, but I did not know that I was getting that until about 2 weeks before the show, maybe about a week and a half before the show. So I did actually purchase a 3-day pass months ago. My wife ended up using that. She came into the show for a day. So she ended up using that extra 3-day badge that I had. And then I used my media badge to get in and out each day. The VIP experience, I can't speak to it as much this year. I was a VIP last year. I did not purchase one this year. They sold out before I purchased the ticket. I probably would have purchased a VIP badge just for comparison to compare last year's experience to this year's experience, but they sold out prior to me being able to get one. So I can't directly speak to how the VIP experience was this year compared to last. I will say it seemed better at surface level. You got in a full hour early. Last year, you got in like 10 minutes early, which was super annoying. That was one of my big gripes last year. They seem to fix that. The ability to fast pass lines seemed like a pretty good benefit as well. And once again, your mileage is going to vary on that. If you're going to this thing looking to do a bunch of autographs and experiences and panels, the VIP is going to be way more worth it to you, because you do get to kind of fast pass some lines like you would if you were going to Disney or Universal Studios or something like that. The VIP badge, I don't even remember the cost on it. I think it was around $400 to $500. A regular 3-day pass, I have it pulled up here, was $150. Daily tickets were $60. Now, is that worth it? That's going to depend on what you want to do. If you're just going for the card show, it's an expensive price to get through the door. If you're doing literally anything else, it immediately becomes a pretty decent value. All the panels are free. All the podcast episodes, all the stuff on the stages is all included with your ticket price. So if you start doing a lot of that stuff, you really get the value back quickly. I paid $150 for a 3-day pass. Yes, I had a media badge, but I had also purchased a 3-day pass. With that, I got into the show for 3 days, and I got to sit in on 3 panels. Actually 4. 3 panels and a podcast. I went to the LeBron panel, I went to the Kevin Costner panel, and the WWE SummerSlam panel. Those 3 alone, if those things just happened in a city, they could have easily charged $50 a ticket for one of those. Hell, they probably could have charged $100 a ticket just for the LeBron thing, and it would have sold out nearly instantly. So to me, I got tons of value out of the ticket price. I also went to Kevin Hart did one of his Cold as Balls episodes. He did a lot of them throughout the weekend. I attended the one that he did with CM Punk, because my wife was in love with CM Punk and she wanted to go to that. So we went and stood and watched that for 45 minutes. Once again, that's just all stuff that's free and included. All the league activation stuff is free. The only time you need to spend money is if you're buying the exclusives, buying merch, or buying cards over in the card section, or food, obviously. Javits, major win. The place is built to handle stuff like this. They're still not even maxing out capacity. This Fanatics Fest did 125,000. New York Comic Con does 200,000 plus in the same building. And New York Comic Con is way busier. Go look at my videos from New York Comic Con vlog footage compared to Fanatics Fest, even this year. Fanatics Fest was busy, but not New York Comic Con level busy. They still have space to expand in this building. They are not using all of it. They could continue to expand the show for the next couple of years before they reach the limit of space in this building. And then that's not even accounting for the number of people that they could get through the door. So they have room to grow in their existing space. Cost to attend the show. The tickets, like I said, your mileage is going to vary on that, whether you want a 1 day or a 3 day. For me, I stay within walking distance of Javits. Javits is right here. It's this big green thing. They have a green roof. This is the front of it. It is right by the ferry. I usually stay at this Courtyard by Marriott right here. I've stayed here probably 8 times now because I've used it for New York Comic Con and I have used it for Fanatics Fest. It is about, I think our total was $350-ish a night, which is pretty much the going rate for a motel in New York City. Now, your cost to attend the show, I can't really give you a true number. It is going to vary wildly. You could very easily, depending on where you live, if you're on the East Coast, you could get in and out of this show in a day really easy if you needed or wanted to. New York City is one of the easiest cities to travel in and out of. You can do it by train, plane, automobile, boat, whatever. Depending on where you live on the East Coast, you could get in and out fairly cheaply. I know someone last year that flew in the morning, went to the show for the day, and flew home the same day and did it relatively affordably. There's plenty of airports to choose from. There's tons of different ways you could do it. It just depends where you're coming from. Myself, personally, we drive in. Now, I don't park in the city. I park at the airport. Parking's way cheaper, and then we just Uber or take a train over to the city itself to the hotel, and then same thing back out. I think parking cost me $125 for 4 days, plus the hotel stay, and then, you know, some subway fees and a couple of Uber fees and dinner. Now, I had my wife with me. We went out to some pretty nice dinners while we were in the city, but it's New York. You could walk to any corner and get a slice of pizza for a couple of bucks if you really, really want to. And that is the other aspect of this show that we need to talk about. The fact that it's in New York City. That makes it a lot more justifiable for people to go to, in my opinion. Spending the weekend, you know, the Nationals at the end of the month, in the outskirts of Chicago. It is not actually in Chicago proper. I don't think my wife's going to go with me. She's going to be bored to death. New York City for the weekend, whole different story. So you could start to justify the trip by making a weekend out of it that is more than just the show that itself. Now, why would we mention the National there? Let's kind of transition into this last section here. Is Fanatics Fest a threat to the National? Yes and no. They are two drastically different events. The National is pure card show. It is what it is. Fanatics Fest is glitz, glamour, hype, and a card show. And a fan experience, and athlete interaction, and panels, and this, and that. It is in a high-end convention center, as opposed to the National, which is in a very great location for a show, especially in Chicago for the next couple of years, where you hotels across the street and you just walk over. Very convenient for that. Very convenient for nothing else. The convention center itself in Chicago, and most of the ones that the Nationals picks, sucks because they're cheap. They want to save money. They go with a large space, not the glitz and glamour. That being said, the advantages of Javits are evident. The Wi-Fi was a little sketchy this year, but you're actually better off not on the Wi-Fi, to be 100% honest with you, unless you happen to be downstairs, and that was a little sketchy down there. But for the most part, I had very little trouble. Worked way better than anything in any of the recent Nationals did. The Javits Center also has plenty of places to sit down, plenty of food options, plenty of bathrooms. It's very clean, and one of the most important things is it is very secure. The National, anyone could just walk in there with whatever. Javits, you walk through metal detectors. They have fancy ones. They will flag you. They will check your bag. There is security everywhere, not just around the athletes. I saw multiple state troopers, cops, local, not local, but like facility specific security. I'm sure there was plenty of undercovers and out of uniform officers as well. You had to go through a ton of security to get in, but it did not hold up the line. They have that down to a science. They bring hundreds of thousands of people in there for much larger events. It's the same security that you go through when you go to New York Comic Con. And that's way more people. And that, you got people in cosplay with freaking, dressed up in armor with swords and guns. So they have security down to a science at Javits. Whereas the National basically has limited to no security from a bag check, who's bringing what in the door type situation. Why it can potentially compete with the National, even though they are not necessarily the same show, there is an audience overlap. And money, time, and vacation, like time off work, is tight for a lot of people. Now, all of a sudden, not everybody has the ability to go to both. A decent chunk of people probably have the ability to go to one or the other. But I would be willing to bet a lot of people do not have the ability to attend both shows. New York's expensive. Even Chicago is expensive. A 5-day ticket to the National, yeah, you get extra days, is $150. It's the same price as a 3-day ticket to Fanatics Fest. The hotels, actually, if you're staying on site, not a ton different in price. Go look at what National hotels are going for right now. They're not cheap. I saw some that were $450. Now, in both cases, you could stay further away and commute in or Uber or whatever. But I think that's where Fanatics Fest could steal audience from the National is if someone wants to go try this thing out, and in lieu of that, they skip attending the National because they can only choose one. And if you have kids, someone asked me, hey, which one should I go to? And they say they have like a 10-year-old and a 12-year-old that they bring with them. Fanatics Fest, I'm going to answer 100% of the time if that's the case. If you want wall-to-wall cards and nothing else, the National's the spot for you. If you want a little more than that, if you want a little extra, plus be in New York City for the weekend, Fanatics Fest is the answer for you. One of my other gripes with the show, I do wish it was a little bit more spaced out from the National. I hate that they are like 5 weeks apart. It kind of sucks. I get why they want to do it in June because it allows them to get most NBA players there and it allows them to get all the NFL players there. I do wonder, I have to imagine they hate that they can't have any baseball players there. I have to imagine at some point or on a whiteboard somewhere, they're thinking about how do we do another one of these in MLB's off season where we could get current MLB stars there. What would a panel do? Imagine a panel with Ohtani, Trout and Judge on it, or anything with the. I mean, imagine any panel with Judge on it in New York City. But imagine one where you have Ohtani, Trout, and Judge on a panel. The stuff that they could do with baseball players would be insane. Now, you wouldn't, if you do it in baseball off season, that's in the middle of the NBA season, in the middle of the NFL season, it's going to be harder to get those guys there. So I wonder if they look at doing a scaled down version of the show, or they end up doing a just second one and it's just a slightly different vibe. That I don't know, but I have to imagine they want to get baseball players involved. And this show's probably going to level up next year once Topps has the full licenses for everything. I get it. A lot of people are not going to like Fanatics Fest because of the Fanatics part of Fanatics Fest. The stage deals, the marketing, the nonsense. People just do not, anything that Fanatics name's associated with, there is a segment of the hobby and a segment of the space that they want nothing to do with it. The show is a good time. I don't know what you want me to tell you. Most people I know that attended, in fact, I have yet to hear someone in my own personal life that went to the show that said, that sucked, I'm never going again. You heard a little bit of more of that last year, not this year. They fixed most of the problems. I have no major gripes for them for next year's show. And that let me get into a couple predictions. I kind of gave one already. I wouldn't be surprised if they try to get a second show into the works to get MLB players in. I also would not be surprised, and I have no inside information on any of this. This is just me guessing. I would not be surprised if this goes to 4 days. I would not be surprised if this ends up being a Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday show to some degree. Maybe Thursday is like a half-day preview thing or something like that. But they could use it. I did run out of time in some instances because of overlapping panels, or just you can only be so many places at once. So those are kind of my rambling closing thoughts on Fanatics Fest as a whole. Is it replacing a national? No. If I was a national, I would be side-eyeing it though. Because when you start comparing them head to head, if your reason is not 1,000% cards, then Fanatics Fest checks a ton of boxes if you compare them head to head. If it's, I want as many cards as humanly possible, then your decision's a little bit easier. But like I've said in multiple places, the card show aspect of Fanatics Fest is good. It's just not as large as some others, and it's a slightly different inventory mix than what you would typically see. There are no wasted tables. There's no wasted tables. Every table has something interesting just about, because they have to. It's very curated. The dealers are all top flight for the most part. A lot of them are shops or Topps direct breakers, and they have to bring their A game because you need to. And like I said, all the dealers' feedback that I've seen so far has been very, very good. Show is packed. This thing is not going anywhere. Whether they made money or not doesn't matter. This is the greatest marketing thing ever for Fanatics as a whole and for cards. I talked about it in the video the other day. You might not like the stage stuff or the scripted deals or whatever. Those clips go wild on social and people see that stuff that have never even thought about cards before. Whether or not that's the best way to 10x the hobby, and you know that number is fairy dust anyway, but to grow the hobby, to grow the collector base in sports cards, whether that's the best way or do it, I have no idea, but it's their approach to doing it, and it does seem to work to some degree. A lot of dealers talked about they sold cards to first-time buyers at both shows, 24 and 25. So that's all I got. It's a great time. It truly was. And I'm also still excited to go to the National in 4 weeks, 5 weeks, 4.5 weeks, whatever it is. As always, curious for your thoughts and comments down below. If you have any questions at all about the show, feel free to fire off that I didn't touch on. I will try to answer as many as I possibly can. I'm sure we'll probably talk about it more on Off-Centered this week. That's all I got. Catch boys and girls on the next one. Peace.